Hi, and welcome to the Hobbyist Guide to Dating. This is Sharon Mason, and I'm here today joined with Clea and Anicario. Is that right, Clea?
That was pretty close. That was good. And mechanical. Yes, it was quite impressive
Anicario.
for your first time.
And Clea is from the YouTube channel Clea's World, and she's going to talk a little bit about dating a narcissist. So, Clea, can you tell me first of all what exactly defines a narcissist?
What defines a narcissist? There are definitions that will tell you that there are certain characteristics that a narcissist has to have. So there's an actual definition in DSM that explains, for example, they have to have certain traits or a certain number of traits. So like 5 traits out of 9 or something along those lines. But I think that your question goes more to, in general, when people speak about narcissists, what are they referring to? Because compared to how many narcissists you will run into your lifetime, and there are quite a few out there, the actual number that's defined by the DSM is actually a smaller number than that. So let's talk about what you and I would run into on a more common basis.
Yeah, I've probably dated a few.
I've been married to one too for a long time, so and that's the thing. I'm not I'm not a therapist, I'm not a psychologist, but unfortunately I have firsthand experience of multiple narcissists, so I've been able to draw patterns and finally figure out how do you spot them, how do you defend yourself, how do you stay sane, basically. But yes, there are several traits that define narcissists. I always refers to 3 of them that are topmost in my mind. One is that they lie. And I know you just did a video on how to catch people when they're lying. I think people should watch that over and over, because as I was watching, I was like, oh yeah, I wish I'd known that. Yeah. But yeah, one, lie about everything. And the reason they lie about everything is because, this is my opinion, this has been my interpretation of the reason for that, is that they have so much that they're hiding, especially from themselves, that it's almost like the truth becomes something that's dangerous, that you have to stay away from as much as you can. So I used to have a joke about my ex-husband that I might have been asking him, hey, what flavor ice cream are you eating? And he would have lied to me, because his very first instinct was to lie. It was like second nature, because I think the internal dialogue is, oh my goodness, what if I say something wrong and all of a sudden this unravels completely and who knows where it ends up. So it's almost like it becomes like, again, second nature for them. So that's number one. You will catch contradictions. You will. There is no way not to do it. After I left my ex-husband, I ran into another narcissist that I call it a non-relationship with, for 3 years, because I barely saw him, but it was very painful. This relationship. And he contradicted himself so many times, but I chose to let it go every time. I could have figured out right there and then that he was lying. That's why he contradicted himself. People who don't lie, who are telling the truth, don't contradict themselves. All right, just as simple as that. The second thing is that they will manipulate you and exploit you if they can. And how do you know that? Well, look at your own behavior and see how you interact with people. You want the best for them. If they ask you for advice, you try to give them the best advice you can think of, and you always tell them, hey, take what you want, you're your own person. You try to give from your heart. That's what normal, healthy people do.
So they're attracted to a certain kind of person that they can manipulate.
Absolutely. In fact, the second man I ran in with right after leaving my ex-husband, he basically was waiting for single moms to come around. I noticed this pattern when I found out the other women he had been dating. And why single moms? Because I don't know, this is my speculation, maybe we're sleep deprived, I don't know what it is, but clearly we are vulnerable in some ways, and maybe we are in search of a savior. I don't know, I'm generalizing, obviously not everyone is going to meet these criteria. I know in my particular case, I was so heartbroken from what had happened to my marriage and in my marriage, that I thought I'd found a shortcut when I fell in love so desperately with this man 2 weeks after I left Thailand, where I was living with my ex-husband, I thought, oh my goodness, it's meant to be. That's why we're so in love. Oh, wonderful. So you see, you're like not using logic at all. You can't use logic, otherwise you're going to smell a rat, right? And basically that's what they count on, is that basically you do your own talking yourself into things because you need something, you need a solution, you need a band-aid so badly. And of course, that's a trap we get ourselves into.
So they kind of go for people who aren't sure of themselves and they're not independent minded. They're kind of, they attract themselves to people who need people.
I don't know if that's always the case. In my case, I am quite independent minded. I actually talked myself into this being okay, despite having all these red flags. So I saw the red flags. We are not blind. We know when something is not right. But I talked myself into thinking that perhaps, even though it wasn't perfect, I should be more open-minded. I should let, things be. Not everybody was going to be what I wanted exactly. So I talked myself into that. It wasn't that I needed people. I really needed something to distract me from the pain I had inside related to my marriage. And of course, that's been a very painful experience per se. And all I've done is compound the pain that I had from my divorce. And eventually I've had to clear out all that pain altogether. But as people, we sometimes unfortunately only learn when we hit the wall really hard. So I guess that's what I needed to do. And now I have a completely new way of thinking about things. This would never happen to me again.
If somebody got into a relationship with a narcissist and they didn't know about narcissistic traits, how would they know that they were dating a narcissist?
So there are some real telltale signs. They're actually somewhat straightforward to spot. For example, one, they always talk about themselves. And when you're first meeting somebody, you want to put your best foot forward, you want to tell your story. But in these stories are always stories of success and wonderfulness, and which is fine. Maybe you are with a wonderful person, but even a wonderful person eventually is going to get tired of talking about themselves. So this person I met after my ex-husband, all he was telling me is about all the great things he did and everything was great. And he had all these admirers. I found that very strange. And I thought maybe he's nervous. In the beginning, he's trying to impress me. He's trying to be attractive to me, like males sometimes do. And then I realized, no, this never stopped. For 3 years, it never stopped. It was always about all the amazing things that he did and these opportunities. And eventually you're like, wow, this is very odd. Another trait, for example, is even when they talk about these people, like, for example, these admirers, they're not very respectful about these people. They don't talk about them, say, oh, I'm so fortunate, people find me charming or whatever, or there are these great women, unfortunately, I love you, so I can't be. No, it's more about, oh, these losers, or these, they are stalking me. I've had to change my number. Oh my God, drama, 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 drama. So it's quite fascinating. Like when you detach yourself and you look back, you're like, what in the world? I mean, so you can tell when you come back to planet Earth, basically you're not in the field of this person anymore. Mm-hmm. You realize this is one red flag after the other. For example, another one is that they're always flaunting their stuff. So it's either how they dress or what they drive or the club they go to or the people they know, or they talk about their money. It's like you realize something is not right. It shows a lack of self-confidence is what it is. Yeah. And that's the problem with narcissists. Really, although they might seem like they're so confident and in charge and in control, the truth is they're completely out of control. That's why they try to control other people. Mm-hmm. And they're missing something. It's almost like there's something missing inside. And one of the main things that's missing is compassion. They have no empathy. They cannot relate to other people. I was talking about this with someone else a few days ago, and we realized that it's almost like you're speaking to a child. And the reason I say that is because children are very much narcissistic in some ways, in the sense that they have no clue how other people feel, for the simple reason that they have no relational value to them. For example, they don't know how their parents feel. They have no concept for sacrifice. They don't understand when mommy is juggling 10 things. Mm-hmm. So all they know is, mommy, I want a toy. Mommy, I want lunch right now. It doesn't matter what you're in the middle of doing. It doesn't matter you may have no money, that you're trying to keep a roof over their head. They don't know any of that. So of course, there's a reason for them being so self-centered, right? They just have no conception of how the world works. It's almost like adult narcissists are stuck, emotionally stuck at a young age.
In their childhood.
Correct. It's almost like something happened to traumatize them, and like their consciousness gets split at that age, and they never outgrew that that self-centeredness. Mm-hmm. It's almost like they're not even selfish, because a selfish person would actually take care of number one, meaning that they would never give you advice that goes against their long-term plans. But they do that all the time, and I'll give you a quick example. I remember one time I happened to have quite a bit of credit card debt. And I remember my ex-husband, I've always had excellent credit. Credit card debt has never really been an issue. We were very successful. And so I remember having I thought, a rational discussion with him, saying, hey, can we just watch it a little bit this month so I can take care of these bills? I wasn't telling him, hey, let's not eat for the next year. I mean, this was a completely reasonable request. And he said to me with a straight face, oh, maybe you should file bankruptcy. And I'm looking at him like he's got three heads. And I'm like, okay, that makes no sense. And you know why it makes no sense? Not only made no sense for the situation at hand or for me, but it made no sense long-term for him. Either we were married, this would have affected him. But see, for him, it was about the short-term reward. They don't understand sacrifice, just like a child. I want my toy now. I don't care if you don't pay rent next month. That means nothing to me. Even though they're going to be on the street with you if you don't pay rent. Do you see?
You've reminded me of a first date that I went on a few years ago, where I turned up at this place that was about a 45-minute drive away from me, and it was local to him. And he turned up and he took one look at me, and he said to me, you know, I always give my dates exactly 2 hours of my time, whether I like them or not. As we sat down to have a drink. And at the end of the 2 hours, he looks at his watch and says, right, well, I've got to go now. And you have had your 2 hours.
Wow. Okay. You're lucky he didn't bill you. I mean, you know, clearly, I don't know if he's a lawyer or something, used to charging. I don't know what the story is with that. Yeah, I'm surprised you were that nice. Instead of saving him the 2 hours, say, listen, we'll cut it to, you know, 1 minute.
He completely up himself though anyway.
There is some strange behavior out there, I can tell you. But this is the kinds of red flags I'm talking about. Some things are quite obvious. Another one is, for example, when they love bomb you. And if you've been with a narcissist, you know right away what I'm referring to. All of a sudden, they make it sound like they found you. You are special. And that's fine. You might be a special person. Nobody's saying you're not. But the truth is, people cannot just tell by talking to you for 10 minutes. Normally, you grow into relationships, and you find out over time as you get to know a person more. Things take time. But with these people, they're already making plans for your 1-year anniversary, how they're going to take you out on these world tours. Yeah. They're taking you on a $50,000 vacation to Fiji. I'm like, okay, slow down. We haven't even gone on 2 dates yet. In fact, it's like it's pulling teeth to get you to go on a date with me. But meanwhile, you're telling me we're going to do all these amazing things. I'm like, okay. It reminds me, have you ever seen that movie? I think it's called 10 Lessons or 10 Ways to Lose a Guy. Yes. I can't remember. That movie is hilarious. And you know how when she puts together that album with their children already, it is the funniest thing. It's almost like that. And we laugh when we see it in the movie, but it's almost like that. It's like, we haven't even gone out on a couple of dates. You're already telling me about our 12 children. You know, let's slow down.
It's one of their traits that they're very possessive as well.
So that really depends. There are some who are, some who aren't, but control is very much part of the manipulative concept that they tend to espouse. So to them, whatever it takes to manipulate you, if it means that they have to control you, so you stay in their bubble, absolutely they will do that. So possession, being possessive might definitely be a part of that. Absolutely, I wouldn't exclude it.
Okay, and if you've dated or been in a relationship with a narcissist and you're just trying to get over that, what are the best ways for you to heal from that experience?
Yeah, so that's a very good question. It took me a long time to figure that out because, as I said, I was in a lot of pain, and unfortunately, we sometimes look for healing when we already are in a very dark spot of our lives. But there are ways that you can, very quick ways where you can at least start breathing again, which include separate yourself, put distance between yourself and this person. I waited a long time to do this because we all want to think the best of other people. And it's always hard for us to pull the plug on something or someone that we think is saving us somehow. Okay, so that was my situation, but it's a very common situation for many who do stay with narcissists. But then, so you put some distance in between you, and if you can avoid all contact, that would be the easiest way. But that's when you start doing the deep work, because the real question is here: why did you attract us? What were you looking for outside of yourself? And we know this. I mean, we're looking for a patch, right? We're looking for a Band-Aid. We're looking for something to make us feel better because we feel horrible inside. But if you don't want to run into this for the rest of your life, and we all know that there are a lot of repeat narcissistic relationships, for people who have had one, because until we heal ourselves, we can never hope to move beyond that. And it's not that we attract these people, because everybody attracts everybody. You cannot really avoid people being attracted to you, especially if you're a light being. But at the same time, just because somebody's attracted to you doesn't mean you let them in. That's where your own discernment and self-love and self-respect and boundaries come in. I can tell you, I had no boundaries. Of course, I would allow this very low vibration behavior in my life, because I thought, yeah, I can take it. I'm strong. It doesn't matter. But guess what? It does matter. It almost destroyed me. Why would you not choose to be happy? And that's the thing. Many of us don't even know what that looks like. We don't even know what a healthy relationship looks like. Mm-hmm. And that had always been my experience. My parents don't have a happy relationship. With my first marriage, I basically recreated very much the experience my parents have had. And then when I moved into the third, narcissist in my life, I looked at it and I said, this is not what I want anymore. And that gave me the starting point and the motivation to actually change everything. And I have turned myself inside out. I'm a completely different person today for that reason. And I will tell you, there are 3 principles I've used, and I will exemplify them. They're very complex, but they're very simple when you hear them. But it's I can tell you, it's a lot of work, because anything that is worth doing is going to take effort. I mean, you know this. Nothing comes easy when it's really worth doing. So the first step is awareness. You need to actually look objectively, be an observer of your life, and objectively take a look at what you're doing and why you're doing it. Okay. Without this initial understanding, you're not going to be able to move forward. The second step is decide what you stand for. That means set up your boundaries. What is okay? What is allowed in your life? What are you allowing in your life? You wouldn't allow anybody to walk off the sidewalk and slap you in the face. But meanwhile, there are people living with people who physically abuse them every day. Why is that? You're not a stupid person. You don't enjoy it. So there's a lot more there going on. So that's why we must have compassion for ourselves. Okay. Now, and the first step, actually, it is to become a sovereign individual and to forgive all. And this goes back to having compassion. Why is that important? Because we all think it's so darn difficult to forgive a narcissist. But let me tell you what I've discovered. The hardest person to forgive is yourself.
Yeah.
All of us have a real trouble forgiving ourselves, accepting ourselves, mistakes and all, for who we are, We know better, we do better. We didn't know, so we did what we did. That's why we're doing the work now. It takes a long time to learn to accept yourself. But the second you do, you realize it's liberating. You are now a free person. And the second that you're a free person, it raises your vibration. You're not going to allow certain things in your life anymore. I can tell you, I have a boyfriend now who I love dearly. Yes. And he is fabulous. I didn't even know people like him were around.
How did you meet?
Oh, we met by chance on a floating trip that neither one wanted to go on. Just to tell you how things are meant to be when they happen. And I was so broken. I actually tried to break up with him 3 times. Okay, already. But you know what? Here's the thing. We, again, and I do mean it, I say it jokingly, but I do mean it. I was broken. And until I realized I started working on that, even though I had a good person in my life, I wasn't okay accepting it. Mm-hmm. But even now, he doesn't get away with anything, nothing, but not in a bad way. I have learned, I used to always stuff everything down, never bring anything up. I was afraid. You know how we're taught as women, you have to be nice.
Yeah, taught to take it and shut up.
You have to sacrifice. I don't know what's going to happen. Maybe you're going to get cold at Christmas if you're not nice. I don't know. You see all these messages in the culture, how we're supposed to be, how we're supposed to take it, like you're saying. All of this adds up to a person who's afraid of speaking out, even when you feel bad. For example, the rare times that I used to mention something that I was unhappy about to my ex-husband, first of all, I would calm myself. I would be very calm. My plan was to have a reasonable, rational conversation, talking to you like I'm talking to him like I'm talking to you now, very calm, so we wouldn't have flaring of emotions, all of this. And I remember he would become so defensive that he would escalate it. And I asked him at some point, I said, I don't understand. I'm not accusing you of anything. I'm just saying, maybe we can look at this because I'm sure you didn't do this on purpose, but this is making me feel this way. And he said, well, if you're going to attack me, I want to show you that I can use your own weapons against you. I was like, what? I mean, we're supposed to work together. We're in a relationship here. I'm not attacking you. And if I'm feeling bad about something, wouldn't you be interested in hearing about this and fixing it? No. So it's interesting. But why do we let that happen? Because, of course, when he did this, I just shut down and moved on and said, oh, I can take it. It's fine. Because, of course, especially when you're married, what do you do? Like, okay, should I divorce over this? So it's like the frog being boiled alive. It's just one little step. It's just another little step. And meanwhile, at the end, you're done. You're boiled. And that's what happens in relationships.
Like our government.
Yes. And it's funny you say that, because when I speak about narcissism, I'm talking in general. When I talk about healing yourself and taking your power back, you realize you don't just take your power back from your significant other or your colleague or your children or whoever it is that's abusing you. You take it away from everyone, which means no people in white coats get to tell you what to do. Yep. No government officials who don't even know you. No, definitely no talking head on television. You don't know what they do in their private life. They're nobody. They're just words that come out of my mouth, in a face. They're nobody. And meanwhile, we get them to tell us how to live our daily lives. This is shocking, but why? We have been programmed forever to give our power away to everyone outside of us, everyone but ourselves. There's a reason for that. It's because once we take our power back, we are powerful creators of our own reality. And as I always say, our narcissistic relationships, all they are is a mirror of what we're allowing to happen inside ourselves, which is very simply giving our power away. We basically choose to not make decisions for ourselves. We choose to have anyone tell us how to live some part of our lives. That's very as simple as that. This is very hard to take for a lot of people. A lot of people might say, no, I get to decide. As I said, I was a very independent-minded person, and I'm really a really good entrepreneur, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm very independent. And even then, when I realized that the message from the culture had percolated to the point that I was allowing this to happen, I was like, what am I doing? We don't realize until we look at it. And that's why the first step in healing is awareness.
And you've written a book about this, Cleo, or about how to heal from narcissistic abuse.
Yes,
Tell
I
me a bit
have.
about your book.
Absolutely. So this is a guide basically on how to go about this process. This is it can be a very difficult process to deal with, in the sense of a lot of emotion is going to come up. But as I always say, tears are good because tears cleanse you.
Yeah.
What tears do is that they cement a lesson. Unless you have tears, you've not cleared the underlying trauma that's brought you to where you are. So it can be a difficult process, but it is very liberating. The second you've shed your tears, you will never look back. And you will feel a lot lighter. A lot of what's going on out there right now in our present circumstances is that a lot of people are scared on both sides of the aisle. Whatever you feel, whatever you think about what's happening out there, almost everybody seems to be running around scared.
Yeah.
Why is that? Because they haven't come back to their center and decided that I'm safe. Nothing can touch me. And that's how I feel. But why do I feel that way? I'm no different from anybody else. I'm a human. I have the same emotions as everybody else. I don't have all up days, it's up and down like everybody else. But here's the difference. I've done the deep inner work. I know where power stands now. I have power in my hands. I don't have to fall for everything people put out. The saying, if you stand for nothing, you fall for everything. And that's the thing. Once you start standing for yourself and realize the power you hold inside, you're not going to be vulnerable anymore. Just as simple as that. Yeah. So I wrote a guide basically on how to achieve this state. And while it takes time, it doesn't have to take as long as it took me. It took me 5 years to go through this process because I had to figure it out on my own.
And now you're telling people how to kind of go through that process and make it kind of a little bit easier maybe than what you went through.
Absolutely. A lot easier, hopefully, because I'm already giving the answer, already giving the solution. Listen, nobody needs to go through what I went through. I even found out that I had cancer the day after I had my child. I was still in the hospital from delivery. The next day they did a CAT scan and found that I had a tumor. I mean, I can only tell you the stuff I've gone through. But you know what? For me, it was part of what I needed to wake up. That's why I've been very motivated to do the work. I am glad I did. As I said, I'm a completely different person today. Despite everything that's going on around me, I am happy. So it seems like such a strange thing to say nowadays in this environment, especially.
Yes.
Happy. And I am because I realize reality is not out there. Reality is inside of you. And what you see around you is a reflection of where you are. I realize I don't watch TV. I haven't watched TV like in 30 years. But I know what's out there. I know all the fear mongering, but I'm not a magnet for it.
I used to work in TV, and I've just completely switched the TV off now, so I know how bad it is.
Yeah, that's the greatest tool of mass programming. If everybody switched off their TV tomorrow, within a week, everybody would be
healthy and happy, and yeah. Well, Clea, thank you very much for your time, and thanks very much for the chat. It's been exceptionally brilliant to hear about what you've been through and how people can take this information, how they can heal from it, and I hope that people do look into your YouTube channel and buy your book and support you. And yes, thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you. This is great. I love what you're doing for people, what you're putting out there. I think this message of hope and inspiration from all your videos. I told you before, I smile every time I watch one of your videos. That is so needed right now. So thank you for putting your content out there.
Thank you, Clea. Thanks a lot, and see you soon. Bye-bye.